This is To Help You Heal, and I'm your host, Marie Monville. We are going to spend 10 minutes talking about healing. What kind of healing do you need? Is it in your mindset? Is it emotional healing? Is it spiritual healing? You know, there's a lot of healing that we all need, and this is where you're going to find it every week, 10 minutes on Tuesday. I'm so glad you're spending this time with me. Welcome back to another episode of To Help You Heal. If you were with me last week, we talked about good, great, and gratitude. Finding these spaces of gratitude in our life, making this aspect of gratitude not just a part of November, but something that we carry out with us through the rest of the year. I told you about my desire to really sink into that place of identifying what is good, what is great, and how does that inspire some aspect of gratitude? What does gratitude even look like based on that? I want to just really be present in that part of the question and find something and not just pass by and say, oh, yeah, I'm grateful for this, but not actually mean it or feel it. I also shared with you that I'm doing this challenge every morning when I take my dog for a walk, and sometimes he just does not cooperate. I love to process when I'm walking. It's a great space for me. And there is nothing more frustrating to me than when Bruno is misbehaving on a morning walk. You know, I'm out there and just thinking through my thoughts, thinking through questions like this. And if he is being ridiculous, it's so frustrating because he's really getting in the way of my brain. And I know that I could just take a walk by myself, but I'm going to have to walk him anyway. So trying to do it all at once. But I think the thing is that in those moments when we have some kind of interruption in that space of these questions that we're asking ourselves, oftentimes, if we are able to push through that, what comes out of that is even more powerful or more sweet than it would have been if we didn't have the struggle. And I was thinking about that this week on a day when he was being particularly annoying, and I thought about how that's true for life in general. When we go through a season of struggle and we push through and we persevere, there are things that we remember about those days, those moments, the decisions, our actions that are more sweet than if we wouldn't have had those to begin with. And I'm always the first to admit that I'm not some person that seeks out the difficulty. I do not, in my natural state, run towards challenge. I'm not looking for every challenge that I can find to take it on, but I think we all have challenges that are unavoidable. And sometimes the ones that get us most are the ones that impact our day to day routine. They're the ones that are so inconvenient and we just don't have time for them, or we are already tired, whatever it is, we just don't feel like dealing with it. And it's not this monumental thing, because if it was huge, we'd probably give ourselves the space to think about how to process that and move through it differently. But it's those little irritations that can sometimes get us so off track. And in the past, they have definitely gotten me off track. But this month, in the space of saying, I want to embrace this place of more or less consistency, I'm again not aiming for perfect, but I'm saying, I want to do this almost every day. I really want to press into this place of saying, what is good in my life right now? What is great? And what is the response of gratitude based on those things? And I know that it's not always going to feel good and perfect and, magical, all of that. And sometimes I am going to have to push through the annoyance. I'm going to have to push through the frustration, the inconvenience, the thing that I wasn't expecting, those interruptions in my day. But when I do that and I'm consistent, I'm showing myself something. I'm proving that I can stick with it, that it's not just this thing I do when I feel like it, or when it feels good, or when the good and the great is obvious, or when I already felt gratitude before I ever asked myself the question. What I find in those moments is powerful and it's lasting. And it doesn't just show me something about this whole concept and these questions, but it shows me something about myself. And I think that this is true regardless of season, regardless of what we're trying to persevere through or what is coming up against us. Undoubtedly, the things that we struggle through, the victory that we find in them, it's lasting. It changes us. It changes the way we see something. Maybe it changes the way we see ourselves. Maybe it changes the way we see relationship with God. It has a multiple aspect of impact. But here's the truth. On the other side of struggle is a sweetness that we wouldn't have found otherwise. And if you are struggling this month or whenever it is that you're listening to this podcast, I want you to know that what you're finding in this place of the struggle, there's a sweetness that is better and that is more lasting, that is transformative, that you maybe wouldn't have found otherwise. And I get that we don't always want it. We don't always want the hardship. We don't want the pain. But we have to remind ourselves there is something good in this. There's something good for me right here. And as much as this podcast is all about healing, it's also about that partnership of psychology and faith and the grit, the determination that we have to embrace in order to walk it out. And so sometimes you're going to hear me lean more into the psychology, and sometimes you're going to hear me lean more into faith. But it's all wrapped in this place of saying it's down on the, down to the wire. It's all about our choices. What are we going to do? We have to own this thing. And in the moment of the struggle, we have a couple choices. We can either choose to say yes to this, or we can choose to say no. But we always have to make a choice. You will find me saying this frequently in life. We always have to make a choice, and not making a choice is still making a choice. So, in whatever it is that you are trying to push through this year, these places where you're working to finish something out before the end of the year, or places of growth, challenge, whatever it is, expect that you're going to have some struggle, that it's not always going to go the way you planned. Hallmark has sold us a lie. It doesn't work out just like we envisioned, that every little momentary setback becomes a great strategy or a fabulous new opportunity. It doesn't always feel like that. We are going to struggle, and sometimes we're going to feel like we're in the wrong place or we made the wrong choice, but we just have to keep going. And we have to allow God to be in that moment with us and to be able to ask Him, God, what do you want me to see in this place of struggle? What do you want me to find here? What is the good that you have for me? Because if He's allowed us to walk in this place, He has something good for us, He has purpose in it. I get that sometimes we're walking out choices that are the result of some other person. We had no bearing on where we are now. We are having to respond to something that someone else set in motion. I get that. But God is a good God. And even though He does not control us, we're not puppets on a string, I do believe that He has redemption planned in everything. And so if we're finding ourselves walking out someplace that's difficult, some aspect of struggle, something that, we said to ourselves, hey, I was going to do this, and then everything else came at me. All this wall of opposition came rushing toward me, and I don't know how to find my way through. We can either choose to keep going or to quit. And really, that's the yes or the no. That's all we have in any place is a choice, but choices are powerful. And instead of stepping back and saying, I'm done, I can't do this, what if we said, okay, I'm going to take one step forward? The only thing that we can control is ourselves, but we always have the ability to take one step. Maybe we take a step to the side instead of a step forward. That's okay. But there is something that happens inside of us when we say to ourselves, okay, this isn't the end for me. I'm going to keep moving. I might not be moving forward. I might be going diagonally or horizontally. It doesn't matter. But I have the power to choose. And if God is allowing me to walk here, He has purpose in it and He's with me in it. So, God, which way do I step in this thing? Where do I go in this? And I believe that as we embrace whatever perspective it is that we feel like He's saying, and we just take that one step, I think it's going to be the thing that leads us to the next step and the next step and the next step. And even if we end up in a place that is completely different than what we thought, it's going to be good because He's going to lead us to goodness. I can say this because I've seen it in my life. I've seen these places where I've said to the Lord, God, I don't even want this. And I felt His challenge of Him saying back to me, but Marie, if I'm allowing you to walk here, I have purpose in it. I don't want to miss the purpose that God has for me. I don't want to miss out on an opportunity to know more of Him or to know more of who He's created me to be. And so that's really what we're saying yes to. We're saying, yes, God, I trust you enough to believe that you are here in this moment. And even if I'm facing a struggle, I believe that you have some kind of good purpose for me in it, that you are redemptive and you're using everything. And so, God, would you lead me in whatever step it is that I need to take next? And then just take the step. Again, it's not about being perfect. I would rather take a step that I believe is where God wants me to go and find out that I was a little bit off and have Him help me redirect than sit on the sidelines and not do anything at all. That's how we find this place of sweetness, the sweetness that comes on the other side of the struggle. And so I hope that this episode has been encouraging to you. If you need more help with finding that sweetness on the other side of the struggle, I want to encourage you to pop over to my website and grab yourself a copy of To Help You Heal, just like this podcast is named. I think it's going to help you not just find healing, but find a place of comfort, connect with God, see Him at work in your life in a little bit different way as you read through my stories and my perspectives. And if you'd like some one-on-one support, reach out. I'm here for you. You don't have to walk this road alone. Thanks so much for listening today. Be sure to share this with your friends and then come on back next week as we continue in our healing adventure.